go. And my tracking's all bored for whatever reason. Hi, welcome everyone. Glad to see you all here today. Um, the last few times we covered, converting a VRWAD model. First, we did a VRChat model to Micoverse, and some of you were asking for a how to make a VRM model from scratch. So that's what we're going to cover today. I don't know how long it's going to be. But we're going to make our model entirely out of primitives, so it's not going to be anything fancy. You're not going to have like an anime styled model at the end of this tutorial. But what we are going to cover is building out the basic skeleton using some primitive shapes. We will also cover some basic things like rigging those shapes to the skeleton to make sure they move. And we might do some blend shapes as well. Just a basic, mouth open, eyes closed, eyes open. So that way we can, cover how to use the proportional edit tool for those. And then also, getting some spring bones in there as well, because spring bones are something that's not really talked about too much. And even though I try to explain the spring bones every single stream, I figured the best way to explain those is just to show a most basic skeleton and how they work with that basic skeleton. So let me go ahead and switch scenes real quick, and that is what we are going to be covering today, is the most basics of basic for how to make your avatar from scratch using Blender. As always, I'm using Blender 3.2. There is now 4.1 is the most current stable release. However, I have yet to update just due to some plugins that I rely on still being for 3.2. So once all of my plugins are good to go, I'll be updating to 4.1 as well soon. But I just want to put it out there, that way you know exactly which version of Blender I'm using. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So let me switch screens here real quick. Let's see here. I gotta move my mouse from one computer to the other. Just give me 1 second. Alright, and of course my tracking's all bored when I'm looking at the other computer. But yeah, so still haven't updated mine. Yeah, see, the problem is I have like 5 installations of Blender. Okay, I might have more. Holy crap. It's not bad. It's like I have Blender 2.8, I have Blender 2.93, 3.2, I think I have 3.4, I know for sure I have 3.5 and 3.6, and I did download 4.1, but all of my plugins are most stable in 3.2, which is why I'm using 3.2 still. There's kind of a problem with Blender, is that when it updates, it doesn't replace itself, it just continuously makes new folders. So you end up with like 10 different installations of Blender every time there's a new major release. And then yeah, some plugins, they just only work with one specific version of Blender. But yeah, so we have here Blender 3.2 open, and just to kind of show more or less what we're going to be doing today, let me go ahead and pull up a model I did the other day just for funsies. This is more or less what we're going to be making today. We're going to be making a VRM model from scratch here. This one is designed to look exactly like the default armature. We're not going to be making quite that today. We're going to be doing a little bit more with it than this. But this is kind of like my new test avatar to make sure that stuff is working in Micoverse and in Unity. So I see here, I got a couple of stuff like a tail here. We have some boob bones. I have some what would be cat ear bones. And these all have physics, so that way we can test, make sure the physics works. And this is more or less what we're going to be doing today, but we're going to start with a completely new project. So let's go ahead and make a new scene. It's going to be new and in general. Yeah! And we have our default cube here. We're going to probably utilize the default cube. So let's go ahead and scale the default cube down. It is a hot model, yes. Alright, now first thing I'm going to do is if you don't have the VRM add-on for Blender already, you are going to need to go and download that. I realized I usually have oh, hi, thank you for the follow. I usually have a Firefox tab open to show you where to get it, and unfortunately, I don't have Firefox open today, so I'll just add that in a edit of the VOD later. But once you have your VRM add-on, you're gonna hit in, go to the VRM tab, we're gonna hit Create VRM Model. Now what this does is it just simply gives us a humanoid skeleton here. So this is the base skeleton. This is what we're going to be working with, okay? Now what we want to do is we're going to actually change ourselves over here to wireframe mode so that we can kind of line things up a little bit easier. There's also some other things you can do, like you hit Alt-Z. Alt-Z puts you into X-ray mode, and with X-ray mode you can also line up stuff pretty easily. This way you don't have to sacrifice your your visuals. You want to make sure though that you're in viewport shading for X-ray mode to work. The throwing stuff doesn't work on the new laptop. I'm sorry. I keep saying every stream I'm gonna get that fixed. I just haven't had time really to like port all of my redeems from one computer to the other because Naruto does weird things when he moves blueprints over. Alright, so this here's our basic skeleton, and you can kind of see here, we got our arms, we have fingers, we have a head over here, so this is what we're going to be working with today. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can utilize the default cube. So obviously you can scale it, but maybe you want the default cube to look a little bit more, like a chest bone. So we're going to use the default cube, actually let's use the default cube as our head. So I'm going to bring up our default cube up here. And we're going to scale the default cube down just a little bit more and bring it down. Now the easiest way to move these is just, if this is your first time in Blender, the easiest way to move something is going to be with the hotkeys S and G. S is the hotkey to scale, and then G is the hotkey to move things around. And what I like to do is when I hit these buttons, if you hit, for example, G, you can then hit X, Y, or Z, which is your move axes, and it'll lock the movement to only the axes. So say I want to move it only, front and back or top and bottom. If you hit G and then you hit Z, it'll lock it to only going up and down. So just a little tip there for how to do that. Now, let's make our head a little bit more rounder. Now, the way I'm going to do this is just kind of like a quick and easy way of doing some organic stuff. Mostly a hard surface modeler, but for some organic stuff, it's a little bit easier to come over here to your right hand side and go to add modifier, and then you're going to hit subdivision surface. Now it's going to turn it kind of into this little like a sphere right here, right? Now also up here you want to click on where it says on cage, and that's going to be a big help for us. And we can increase our levels here. I like to use a level of 2 for this. Now we have a little sphere here, but we can also make it shaped differently. So say we want to be a little bit more elongated. Because this is still a cube, we can add a it's called an edge loop. So if we go into edit mode by hitting tab, you can either hit tab or come up here to the top left, and you're going to click on edit mode. You'll see here that we have our points here, and it went from being a cube to being this ball. And if you turn off on cage, you'll get your cube back, just to kind of like show what's going on there. So we're going to leave that on, and because we want this to be kind of more head shaped, we're just going to do an edge loop here, and since we're kind of to style this a little bit like this, so it's going to be kind of more of like a what's it called, a Lego character, yeah, essentially. But I also want to show how we can do some other neat fancy stuff here with this, so that way we can kind of mark our position on here. But I think this is good as it is. So you can see here, and you can also see too where the eyes are positioned. Now what really matters is not the top of the armature, off the skeleton here. That is just kind of like an end point, but what we actually want to do is line up our midpoint probably here with that there. So this here is going to be the point where our um, head is going to be rotating at. It's going to be our pivot point right there. So I want to make sure that our pivot point is kind of like in the center of that circle. And then we have our eye bones here. Now we're going to end up moving these eye bones in a little bit because obviously I don't really like where they're placed. And for our purposes today, we probably aren't even going to use the eye bones because we're going to be trying to do some AR kit stuff. But this right here is good enough for now. And what we can also do now is we can give them some eyes. So actually, yeah, let's go ahead and use these eye bones. Now, I'm going to click on the armature, so make sure you're clicking on the skeleton and not on the blob there. And same thing, just hit tab, and then you can click on here on the bone you want. Hold down shift and click on the other bone. And then like I said, hit G and then Y, it'll move that forward. And then we can hit G and then Z and then move that down. Roughly about there is probably where our eyes are going to be. So we'll move that there. So now we have where our eyes are going to be. We can go ahead and actually add some eyes here. So one neat thing to do in Blender is this thing called booleans, right? And what booleans do is, before we actually add a boolean, let's apply this modifier here real quick. So I'm going to click apply all, and apply it, so that way our shape is, becomes the proper shape. So what a boolean does is basically when one object is used to cut another object. And with that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to add mesh, we're going to add a UV sphere. It's going to make a big old giant sphere. You don't need to be that big, and it's just going to be on the face. You can bring this down to, I don't know, I guess, should be fine, like 8x8. It doesn't need to be super fancy. So just an 8x8 sphere should be good enough for our purposes right now. And you know, just hit S to scale it down. We'll bring it up. And you can see here, it's still way too big, obviously. So just, again, hold down S and scale down. And like I said, if you hit S and then, like, X, then you can scale on only that one axis. So that might be something you want to do, depending on what it is that you're trying to, like, you know, stylize. So let me just bring this forward. And I feel like these are still a little bit too big. So we'll go ahead and just, you know, bring these off to the side. And just going to line it up as best as I can with our stuff here. And we'll probably end up moving those eye bones a little bit more closer. But now I get to show you real quick, you know, how you can really quickly duplicate the eye. And then we're going to use the boolean that I mentioned to cut it out. So now we go to add modifier, and we're going to go to array. So when you go to array, it's going to give you this other eyeball here, and you can change the number of eyeballs if you want. If you want like a weird alien that has a bunch of eyes, you can do that. We're just going to need 2 for today's purposes. And then we have an offset here. Now I like to use constant offset instead of the relative offset. The difference between the two is that constant offset uses a set distance, while the relative offset is like more based on the position of the original object. But it scales. It's kind of like a scaling factor versus a set distance as you move it around. So I like to use constant offset here. And we're just going to drag it over here to where it looks about good. I'm thinking probably right about there is a little bit better. So now we have our eyes, and we're just going to go ahead and make sure we click apply all up here at the top. And now we can cut the eyes out from the head if we wanted to do that. So the easiest way to do that is we're going to select our head, and we're going to go to add modifier, then add boolean, and we're just going to click on the spheres here. So now if I were to hide the spheres here, you'll see here we have cut out a little space for our eyeballs. And the reason why we want to do this because we can add like little things inside here. We can add, for example, if you wanted to do anime styling, you would do this, and then you would add your like a plane for highlights. You add a plane for the iris or the pupil, and you can do stuff like that in the little cavities here. And we're also going to need to do this one more time as well for our mouth. Now with our mouth, we'll probably get a little bit more creative with that. So let's go ahead and add another object here, and we'll make a mouth out of it. I think I'm actually going to use probably a cylinder for it. And we're going to use a lot of these primitive shapes today, okay? So we're going to be using, you know, a cylinder, we're going to be using cones, we're going to be using basically all of these primitive meshes to make this model today. So like I said, it's not going to be super stylized, it's just going to be what it is, because I wanted to show you guys how everything works. So let's go ahead and add a cylinder here real quick. Now again, it's gonna make a big giant thing. The reason why it's making these big giant shapes is because in Blender the default size is in terms of meters, and our character is obviously not like 2 meters wide, as you can see here, and this is actually set to 1 meter wide. So we clearly are not a whole meter wide, and we are not 2 meters in depth. But we're going to drag this down a little bit, probably about right there, and then we're going to bring it up. And actually, this is a great opportunity here because we can use this as our neck bone. So let's go ahead and bring it up here. We'll actually just use this as the neck bone here. Now, like I was saying, if you hit, and it's actually perfectly sized too, depending on what it is we're trying to do, but if you hit S and then you hit, like, for example, Z, you can see here it scales only on that axis. So yeah, we're just gonna end up using that as the neck bone, and you may or may not want it inside of the mesh, right? You might want to have that just not in the mesh at all. So we can just bring it down. We're gonna leave it just a little bit inside, but maybe we don't want it like fully inside. And then we'll bring it up, I don't know, like 1.5 on the X and Y. There we go. So we have our neck. I was gonna use this for the mouth, but it just happened to be, you know, appropriately sized to become our neck bone. And actually, let's move this up a little bit because there's, go back to solid. Where'd it go? Oh, I hit it on accident. Sorry. I hit the wrong hotkey. And we'll just bring this up like so. Because what I want to show here is, you know, we have these little circles here in the middle. And these mark where the bones start and stop, basically. So that is something to keep in mind. And I actually usually will change my bone display, but we'll get to that later when we are getting more closer to testing rigging and stuff. So we have our neck now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this, and so we can make our mouth. So if you click on it, hold down Shift and press D, and then hit Y, you'll see here we have a new cylinder there. We can now rotate this however we need. Maybe just want to do 90 degrees, and make sure we're on the proper axis there, on the X-axis. Something is actually not right with that. It's not rotated properly, and we'll figure that out. So yeah, we are a little bit off on our rotation there. Just gonna rotate 90 degrees every direction, I guess. And we're just gonna bring it down, and all I want to do is just kind of make a little like spot for lips. That's still a little bit too big, and it's gonna bring it over here to where our mouth is going to be. And let's go ahead and extend it out a little bit. Now, we might not want it to, you know, have these hard edges, so what we're going to do, just kind of fix that, is, like I said, you can use the uh, subdivision surface if you wanted to. That'll give you kind of more of a lip shape there. But we do have way too many sides, and that's really a me problem there. I should have thought about that a little bit better. Um, because now it's going to cut out. If I do cut it out, it's going to cut out with a ton of extra stuff. But what we can actually probably do here is use a different tool. So I'm going to leave that there right now and use this kind of like a guide for where I want the mouth to be. So another way you can, cut stuff up is with the knife tool. Now, some people are absolutely against the knife tool. I find the knife tool to be very useful, and since this is a 101 kind of style tutorial, I figured the knife tool just makes a lot of sense to kind of show. So I'm going to, first off, let's move the cylinder up. If it'll let me. Why does it keep doing that? I don't want it to, keep changing my thing if it's just because the hotkeys that I have set up. So right about there is probably where it'll be easiest to kind of explain how this works. So I'm gonna put it right there, just kind of like a rough guide, okay? And now let's select our head and hit tab. Now the knife tool, the way it works is if you hit the button K on your keyboard, or if you come over here, it's one of these buttons, I don't remember which, but you're going to find the button that is labeled knife. And then the way it works is you click on a point on the edge, so like right here, for example, and then you can, click elsewhere, and then just kind of, like I said, use this as a rough guide for where we're cutting. It's not going to be the best of stuff because I don't have my viewport proper. So let's set our viewport to be front and center by clicking Y up here. And now we can show this here real quick. So yeah, if we wanted to, cut this out and have proper topology, because you can see I kind of screwed up the topology there, you would just hit K to use your knife tool, bring it across however you need to bring it across. And you can hold down shift to like snap it to parts as well. We're going to bring it across and then go back down. And then same thing over here. And then right about here. It's not perfect, but it'll work. So let's go ahead and hide our cylinder now. So now we have this little point here in the middle. And if we go back to our selection tool, we have that point there. We can hit G and then Y, bring that in, and that's going to kind of create where our mouth is going to be. It's not the prettiest way of doing it, but again, I want to show different ways, different options for how you can go about adding stuff like a mouth. The cylinders kind of didn't work the way I was hoping it would work, and it wouldn't have been as proper topology, so we're going to scrap that idea. But this is one way you can add a mouth using our knife tool. So we have our basic head, but we need to make the rest of our body now. So let's go ahead and make the rest of our body. You can kind of see here too, like I said, now that it's in a solid view, we have little spheres, we have little pyramids, and these mark where the bones start and end. And this is what we're going to be following as like our base skeleton for how we're going to be building stuff out. So let's add here, and what I want to do is I want to show each bone. Okay, we're going to show each and every bone and how all those bones interact with each other. So there's a couple of ways to for what I want to do. So let's start off here with a cone. Okay, so we're gonna have this cone here, and we can do with the cones is you can actually make them into sort of like different shapes. You can make a cylinder out of it, and I'm gonna bring this down to 8. We'll do, I guess, 16 vertices for it, and basically just made a cylinder out of it. Because yeah, there's different ways that you can make basically the same thing, depending on what your goal is. Or say we want to make our body a little bit skinnier up top, actually make the body probably skinnier in the bottom. And let's adjust our depth. And you can see here too, as you adjust the depth, it does also affect the width of that there. So that's something to keep in mind. But this is going to be kind of like our torso. So let's go ahead and move it where we need for our torso to be. And let's alter our radii however we need. Move the depth up a little bit. And so, okay, so now we need to make it a little bit longer. And you can use your hotkeys, you can use your gizmos, whichever works best for you. I kind of switch back and forth between the gizmos and other stuff, and the hotkeys, but use whatever works best for you. So it's just kind of, you know, where that's going to be sitting right there. And that's going to become our torso. Now we can mirror this and do the same thing for our body here. Now there's 2 bones here, and you don't need to use all of these bones technically, but we have a spine, we have hips, and so for our spine, to kind of show the spine, how that works, we'll do a double-sided pyramid for the spine. And then we'll do another one of these for the hips. So first, let's do our hips. Let's go ahead and grab this. We're gonna hit Shift D to duplicate it, and then Z to move it down. And then you can go over here to Object and then Mirror. And then you want to do Z Global. And you can see here that flipped it upside down. Now we need to scale it down. So we can hit S to scale. Scale it on our Z axis. And then bring it up to where our hips are going to be. So this here is our hips. And let's kind of make it into like a pseudo skirt. So let's hit S and then X. And we'll bring it out about there. Do 1.91. It's a nice number. Yeah, 1.91. It's a nice number that I like to use sometimes. And then also copy that there. So that's going to be our hips. So you can kind of get an idea for how that's going to look. Actually, let's make this a scale of just 2, so even 2. There we go. And then we are going to add, like I said, we'll add like a little diamond or something here to create what's going to be our spine, so we can kind of see how that is going to be formed, or how that works. So let's go ahead and add another object. Just go to Mesh, and we'll find different objects to use for it. And let's see here. Actually, I guess we could do we'll just do a cylinder, yeah. So let's actually do this. Bring this up here. And there we go. So it's already sized just fine for us. And there we go. Now we have our spine. And I know it's not, like I said, it's not going to be a pretty model that we're working on today, because I just wanted to show how, in the most basic form, how to use Blender to kind of make a character and how to rig it all up. Now we also need our shoulders and legs. Let's go ahead and start with the legs. So what I'm going to do for here is I'm just going to do Shift D on this cylinder. And we're going to hit Z to bring it down, hit G and then X to bring it off to the side, and then S to scale it up. Probably about there is fine. Hit G and then Z again to bring it up a little bit, S and then Z to scale it up a little bit further. So we have our first leg here, and now we're going to do the same thing, Shift D and then X, and then bring it over here to our other leg. And these probably are not like all that accurate to exact dimensions, but it's fine however it works. Um, so now we have these little tubes for our thighs, and just to kind of separate things out for our lower legs, we can make them a little bit smaller for the lower legs. And maybe we'll add a ball joint to as well. Actually, I think that's a great idea, is adding a ball joint. So for our ball joint, let's just add a sphere here real quick. We're going to add a UV sphere. It's fine where it's at. Just scale it down quite a bit here. And since we're doing that, we're going to scale these up or down a little bit. There we go. Move them up. Probably should be using these ball joints for all of it, to be honest. And so we'll probably go back and redo some of these joints. Okay. So what we're going to do is we have these ball joints here. And this, as you can see here, these can actually do that. That way they're kind of like touching the ball. Alright, so then shift D again, hit X, and bring it over to the other side. And then we can grab both of these again, grab both of them. So to grab them both, just click the first one, hold down shift, click the second one, and then again, just shift D. Oh, see, we actually had too much stuff selected. So make sure you're only selecting what needs to be selected there. Shift D and then Z will bring that down, and then we can line it up. Now, since we want these to kind of move together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the cylinder, or not cylinder, I'm going to click on the ball here, and then shift click on the cylinder, and we're going to hit Control J. What Control J does is it's going to merge them into one single object. So right now, if I click on these separately, they can be moved independently. Or if I click on one, click on the other, hit Control J, then now they become one single object here. Before we do that though, let's shift D and move the little sphere out of the way right here. Move that off to the side, so we can do the same thing with this other one. And actually, let's delete that. And then shift D and then X and just bring it over. There we go. So now we have our lower legs here. And I guess we could just use that base template for everything now. Now that we have it, we can use this as a base template a lot easier. Should have done this from the start and showed how to do that. I think we are good. Now I am noticing, yeah, we are a little bit off center on where that bone lines up. And it's probably my fault for not lining stuff up properly. I mean, it looks like it is, but it's really not. And I think that's just how the skeleton might be too, maybe? I'm not sure. But you can notice here, we are a little bit off on where those are, but it won't affect things too much. So again, just shift D, bring it down with Z. And what we're going to do now is hit R and then X, and that's going to rotate here. Now, if you notice here, it is rotating based on the center of this whole object, and maybe we don't want to do that. So we can easily fix that. Easiest way to fix that is to go into our edit mode, and now we're going to find a point here maybe. And actually what we want to do is move our cursor to be kind of in the center. Because I believe if I were to select only this here, and if I go to, what's it, mesh, I don't think I can actually change the origin point here. Yeah, I don't see the origin point under edit mode. So what I should have done, kind of like fix that, is do it a different way. But you can move our origin point, right? So say for example, let's move our location here to 0, and then 0. And then we bring it down on the Z. Oop. And we can go into 2D mode, just kind of make sure it lines up. Bring that down right about there. And yeah, we're not quite centered up, but we'll get as close to center as we can. So by doing this, we can go to Object, Set Origin, and then Origin to 3D Cursor. And now what happens is if we hit R to rotate, we are pivoting where that joint is, and that's really what we want, is to pivot where that joint is going to be. And now we can scale it down. We can bring it up and off to the side wherever we need. Probably scale this up a little bit. Go ahead and fix our rotations here. And just line it up with where we need to be for our feet. Now it's a little bit too long, but that's fine, because it's not too hard to fix that, like I was saying. So to fix that easily, you just go into edit mode, select only these vertices down here at the bottom, and if you hit G twice, you can slide along that path, along this path here. So if we just hit G twice, it'll slide along this pathway. Use this little indicator there, and that just tells you that you're sliding along a set line. And in this case, it's going to be along the lines of the model. If you hit G only once, for example, if I just hit G once, then it kind of freeforms, and you might not want that freeform. So yeah, if you just want to quickly move these in, just hit G twice, and it'll slide along that axis without doing all freeform. And then you can also use it to make your points in or out as well, like that. So that's another quick way of getting some of these shapes, is just hit G twice, and it kind of works to slide things around in a nice even manner, rather than, like I said, if you hit G a single time, it just goes all over the place. And like I said, if you hit here, then you can scale that down like so, right there. And then we just do the same thing. So it's going to be Shift D, X, bring it over here to this side, and then we can hit the same button again, Shift D. This time we can hit Y, and it's going to bring it over here, and then hit G and then Z. Scale it down however we need, and just get it into position so that way it looks nice where we want it to be. Oh, and so we went off axes there. Now you'll notice too that sometimes because we had rotated this, if we hit G and then C, it might not move on the correct axes. That can happen sometimes if somehow you end up in local space versus global space. I'll kind of cover a little bit about what those are when we get to the rigging, because that's where it's really going to matter the most. But now we can go ahead and rotate this up. That's going to give us our foot there. So Shift D and an X, bring it over here to our other foot. So again, it's not really the prettiest looking thing, but we are getting a little bit somewhere here. And I'm just going to select all these and then bring it down just a little bit. Go to 0.5, I guess, for all of that. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Just grab all these, scale it down, and do 0.5 for all of it. It looks a little bit nicer. Okay. And Alt Z, go back into solid view. And I guess I probably should have done that for all these. So let's actually delete our thighs, and we're gonna just use the space template that we did for everything, because it just works quite well. So we can bring that up, and then up here, a factor of 0.3. And then just shift D, X, and move it over. There we go. And we're also going to be using these for other stuff as well. So I'm not going to use these for our arms here. Yeah, having that little template is going to be such a big help, actually, now that I think about it. What we should have done from the start. Okay, so again, shift D and X, and then you can bring it up by hitting G and then C, bring it all the way up. Now again, our origin is all weird, so if we were to go to rotate, so that's going to be our pivot point right now, and again, that's not what we want our pivot point to be, but there's a few different ways you can change the origin. So for example, if we go here to our cursor tool and place our cursor up here, then we can set directly right up here to be where we want to be. Now you might want the the geometry here, and you can turn on snapping by clicking this little button up here, this magnetic button, and that should snap it to the geometry itself. Just a bit of a pain sometimes. Oh, here you go. You can go to conform, and then vertex. It's going to be snap the closest vertex. So now it should be snapping to right there. So right there is now where our pivot point is at. But obviously we don't want our whole model to be pivoting around that spot. So now we just hit G and Z, bring it up to where it's lined up, right there. And then if we click on it, you can go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor, and now our pivot point is where it's supposed to be. So now we can hit R, and then should be Z for this one. No, it's gonna be Y axis now. And you just want it to be negative 90 degrees, because it is just gonna be an arm going this direction. And then again, it gets kind of repetitive at times, you know, trying to basically just copy and move stuff into place. But you want to get used to that, because a lot of 3D work is repetition for everything. When you start getting to like adding physics, you'll end up doing the same exact step for your physics like a million times, and it'll be super annoying. But it is just something you have to kind of deal with, and it does pay off in the end once you you know, get everything how it needs to look. And that's kind of really what's most important, is that, you know, things just kind of work the way they need to work. Oh, I think I had scaled that wrong. Did I? Yeah. So let's go ahead and move this down where it needs to go. Right about there. And let's actually bring it over just a little bit. Let's scale it down as a whole to about there. And then what we're just going to do is go into edit mode and just hit G twice. And oh, that's just not what we want. We want to hit G, then X. And there we go. And let's go ahead and mirror this. So we're going to do the same thing. Shift D. And then we can just do is simply go up here to Object, go to Transform, or go to Mirror, Mirror X Global. And it's going to flip it over the other direction. And then you just do the same thing over here. Just move it into place as best as you need to get it. And then we can hit Shift D again. Bring it to where it needs to go for our arm. And maybe we will extend it out just a little bit more on this side. So make sure we have these this side selected. And bring it out how we need. So kind of, starting to get kind of there where we want to be with this. Alright, so now let's do the same thing. We're just going to mirror it real quick. So I'm going to go to mirror and then go to X global and then bring it over where it needs to go. Oh, for some reason. Oh, that's right, because we told us to snap. We don't want to be snapping right now. And you can use the numbers to, make sure it's like exactly positioned. But I'm not trying to be super precise right now because I just want to show, the most basic of how this is put together. So before we get to the hands, let's go ahead and kind of talk about how we can actually get this, to move. Because right now, if we were to grab the skeleton, our skeleton and go to pose mode, you'll see the skeleton, obviously, even though the meshes are there, they don't move with it. So there's a couple ways we can do that. But the first thing we want to do is let's talk about the skeleton real quick and how skeletons work. So obviously with the skeletons, you have bones, right? If I go into edit mode and I hit Alt Z, we have bones, and these bones have names up here. Now, luckily, when you use the VRM add-on, it creates a skeleton for you, and you don't have to name it yourself. It already has everything named. But the reason why the meshes don't move is because the meshes have to be matching to the bone. Now, you don't necessarily need to name the mesh itself that. So, for example, if I select this cylinder here, or select this arm here, right? If I select this arm, the bone name for the arm is going to be upper_arm.r. Now, if I were to click on this, obviously our cylinder is just named cylinder.012. You don't need to be named the cylinder itself for it to work. Instead, what you need to do is you need to go to this icon down here. It's going to be 3 dots on a triangle, and there's this thing called a vertex group. So I'm just going to add a vertex group and to simply name it the same as the bone that you want to move with. It'll be upper_arm.r. But that doesn't do enough. So now what you have to do is hit tab and just select everything and hit assign, right? So now we can move our joint around. So now if we move our joint, we go over here to our skeleton, and oh, see, it's still not working because we forgot a step. Now what we also need to do is we can pair it. So in order to pair it, we have this thing called relations, and you want to set the relation type to our 2D armature. And then you have to add a modifier here that says armature. So I want to make sure that both your parent is armature and that you have the modifiers set to armature. And then now, if you were to, click on our bone, it's still not moving the way it's supposed to move. Did I name it correctly? Oh, upper_arm.r. I don't think I named that correctly. That group. What did we name it? We named it. So that's another thing too. When you are skinning stuff, make sure that the case matches. So yeah. And there we go. Now we have that moving. And we'll cover a little bit more about that here in a moment. But I just want to, do a side note right there to kind of freshen things up in my own mind um, for what I want to talk about. But before we get to the hands, because I felt like we're being a little bit too repetitive with the hands, or with scaling these bones up. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about skinning. So there's a few different things that can happen when it comes to your bones, right? So, for example, we'll do this right arm with the method I just showed. So again, over here, this one's going to be lower underscore arm. You can start here, it says lower underscore arm dot r. And if we were to, select this here, we want to first make sure the parent is armature. We're going to add the modifier armature, make sure that is selected properly. And then we got to go and add a vertex group and just make sure that the name matches. It's going to be lower underscore arm dot r. Make sure the lower arm part is lowercase, upper arm is or the r is uppercase. And then make sure you assign it. Now, when you're assigning it, you'll see here there's this thing that is called rate. There's this little slider here, and this slider says rate. And I don't like the term rate when it comes to rigging skeletons, and I'll explain why. With the other side, with the left arm, I'll explain why. But you have these things called, you have this slider here called rate. So if we were to set this to 0, for example, then when we go to move our arm, then this is not going to move at all. And if we go to 5, then it'll move, but it'll kind of be a little bit slower, kind of lag behind. And 100. By default, you want to be 100 by default. So this is the first method of skinning your arms so that way they move. And we can see that here now. If we were to, we can move our arm around, move both arms around, okay? But let's do a different method for the other side. So let's say, for example, for whatever reason, or maybe not for whatever reason, but let's say you have one continuous object here. So I'm just going to select both of these here, and I'm going to hit Control J to merge them into one single object. Now, this is where that method doesn't quite work as much anymore. So we still need vertex groups. We need to have 2 different vertex groups, okay? But, and it's actually a huge but, actually let's do this. Let's show how to use another tool quick. I'm going to delete that arm there. And let's grab this here. So let's say you have like a more proper, model. You're going to have a cylinder. It's going to be making up your arm mostly. And let's grab this here. And there's a button here on the side that says extrude region. And we're going to use that button here real quick. So the extrude region button. You can also hit E on your keyboard. And what that does is it either, carves inwards. You can use it to carve inwards. So maybe you're making like a gun barrel. You can extrude inwards to make that there. Or you can extrude outwards. So let's go ahead and extrude outwards for this arm. And we're going to put it in a few different parts, I guess. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to hit E. And we'll go halfway there. And then we'll go like another halfway. And then we will, go the full distance that we need to go. All the way over here, okay? So let's say we have like our arm like this. Instead of having a ball jointed arm, we have this arm here. There's one long continuous tube. And this is where I'm going to show why I don't really like why they call it rate instead of influence. But basically, and also this topology is really not the best topology for arms, but we can get to that another day. because this isn't like a full-fledged tutorial on how to properly skin a mesh. This is just making your first character ever kind of thing, and getting it into Mikoverse, getting it into Naruto, whatever you want to do. But I did want to show the two different ways of doing it. This is the easy way, assuming you have separate meshes. This is going to be the more little complex way. So we're going to add our vertex groups. Just add 2 groups and make sure the first one, the order doesn't actually matter, but again, make sure your case is accurate. So we're going to do upper arm and then lower arm dot L. Okay, so that's going to give us our 2 groups. Now, first thing we're going to do here is let's select our joint up here. Okay, I'm just going to select a random vertex, and here's a little trick you can do in Blender that's really helpful. Is hit Control and then L, and it's going to select the entire object there. Now just hit click on upper arm, hit assign. That's going to assign it a rate of 100%. Now let's get to the fun part. Okay, so let's say here, let's select this whole like ring here. Okay, and what you can do to select the whole ring is hold down R and then, or hold down Alt and then click on that ring there. And then same up here, hold down Alt, click on, you want to click in between the 2 vertices, and then over here just hold down Shift and then Alt and then in between those 2 vertices. Now let's assign it a rate of 100%. Okay, so we're gonna hit assign 100%. Now we'll do the same thing for this side here. Now click in between there, and we're gonna come over here, hold down Shift, hit Alt, click in between there, select the lower arm, same thing. Now you notice we didn't assign anything to the middle here. This middle part is where there's going to be some overlap that we need to take care of. So here in the middle, you can actually assign the vertexes, I believe, to up to like 4 groups. So what we're going to do is here in the middle, hold down Alt, click right there in the center, and we can assign it to both. But we're going to put it to like 0.5, okay? And then just make sure it's part of both groups. So now, if we go into our pose mode here, helps if that is properly paired, or it should be paired properly. Just double check. We didn't. Oh, that's right. We didn't parent it. Duh. Make sure your stuff is parented properly. There we go. So, yeah, now if we go into pose mode, now obviously we have our whole arm here moving. It's what we want to see, the whole arm moving. Let's select our other arm though, and you can see here we're getting this little bend here. Now again, it's not really the best of topology. Probably want a few extra vertices there. But now we have this bend here, and that's where we get to explain what rate painting is. So the reason why we set those values is because there's this thing called rate, and if I click here onto our mesh, I need to get out of, there we go. You'll see up here at the top, there's a rate paint mode, and it makes your model nice and colorful, sort of. So if you were to go here to upper arm, you see it goes from, I believe this is red, it should be red to you, to me it is more of an orange color, but you'll have this red spot here, and then you'll see this nice little rainbow kind of thing coming over here. And this is the weight, as it's called in Blender, or most things call it rate. It's best to actually refer to it more so, I guess, as influence, right? So now let's add a wireframe overlay. So to add a wireframe overlay, come up here to the top, we're going to click on overlays and just add a wireframe overlay so we can see what exactly it is that we're doing. But it's more of influence than it is rate. So at a maximum value of 1, it'll be this red color. And at a value of 0, it'll be this blue color. Now, what that basically means is how much influence the bone has on those vertexes. So, for example, if you don't want those vertexes to move at all, then you want them to be blue. If you want them to move at the same time as the bone itself, you want them to be red. And then in between is where you're going to have these other colors, right? So like a value of 50, we'll do 55, gives you this green color here. But make sure too that we're not like, painting where we don't want to paint. So as you saw here, if we were to go over here to our pose mode, if I can select our armature properly, we're going to pose mode. And you can see there, we're getting these like little crinkle spot, right? But let's say we didn't want some of this to move. Go back to object mode and then go to weight mode. And let's say we didn't want this part to move at all when it comes to the lower arm. So say our lower arm is right here. And like I said, if you set the strength to 0, if it'll let me paint on it, probably won't let me paint on it because it has been posed. So give me a second here to reset that pose. Make sure armature is selected. Hit Control A, and then clear transform. Okay, so since we have a single continuous mesh, what we could do is set our rate down, and let's say this is looking weird, right? Well, we can paint here however we need it to. So maybe we'll just paint only the top here as an example. And just make sure you are painting the right spots where you need to paint. This is honestly one of my most hated things when it comes to 3D, so I'm not going to fully explain it. But I just wanted to give a brief general overview of it. So now if we come over here, select our armature again, go to pose mode. And no, I don't want to move the whole thing. I just want to move only that one bone. And you can see here, now the stretchiness is a bit different. So that's why it's important that, that things are rate painted. And like I said, if you don't want it to move at all, right? Like let's say we didn't want the arm to move at all for whatever reason. We'd go back to object mode and go over here to rate painting. And let's say we wanted this to have like no influence right here. So we can paint this all blue now. Nope. And you can see here, it's already moving stuff back into place. And it's gonna look kind of weird because we already moved stuff, right? But now if we do that, now if you notice, now it's all like jaggedy. So you don't want it to be jaggedy, but it's all jaggedy now. And that's because it's moving those vertices back to their original position. So now only, and I think this one too needs to be set back. So now the only crease we're gonna get is gonna be right here on the inside, And on the outside, we're not going to have any movement for that. So let's go ahead and just select our lower arm again. And you can see here, now that we've done that, there's no movement there. So that is one. The other way, the more advanced way, is to do weight painting instead of doing automatic, or just setting it to like 100. But you don't always want stuff to be 100. You don't always want stuff to be 0. So just keep that in mind as you're doing stuff. But I just want to show a little bit about how that works, and let's make sure that this is back to normal, how it was. So edit mode, no, weight painting mode, and let's fix this back to where it was. So see here, this should be 50%. So let's go 0.5, right? And just repaint this here in the center with 0.5. And then let's go back to 100% for right here. Now, one thing I do like to do though is I feel like when you have this spot in the middle, right? So the spot in the middle is at 0.5 right now. I actually don't really like having those joints at 0.5. So usually when I'm doing my own like custom weight painting, I actually will use a value of 0.2 for this whole like centerpiece. I just feel like that ends up working better, and you can actually overlap that too. So let's say let's overlap this whole part here with 0.2. So it's a little bit more finer of a gradient there. And we're going to do the same thing by selecting our upper arm as well. So select our upper arm and do the same thing here. We're going to just do 0.2 along this whole edge. And sometimes I feel like that helps a lot to kind of adjust a little bit more how it looks. So if we go back into object mode and then select our armature, go to pose mode, select our lower arm, and now we have it. And you can see here it's now deforming this spot here too, this little spot here. I just feel like that kind of helps a little bit to give it a little bit of extra stretchiness that is kind of needed sometimes. And obviously you want to have better topology that's like specifically for joints, because this is not like proper topology for joints, but you can kind of see there how it works. And another thing we can do too is, let's say we want to rotate it. No, let's rotate it on a different axes here. So let's clear this transform actually, clear all. And if we twist, for example, you can kind of see too, where by twisting it, we have half influence here in the middle, but only 20% influence on this other part here. So that kind of helps, like I said, to add a little bit of play in that joint. Whereas if you were to go back to edit mode, not edit mode, go back to our weight painting, and let's select our lower arm again, and let's go back to 0. And if this is all set to 0 again as it was, then you'll notice here that that upper arm piece no longer has that play. So if we go to object mode and we select our pose, and then we rotate it on that axis, it no longer twists the whole thing. So that is something I wanted to cover, was, you know, how weight painting works versus simply, you know, having it separated and assigning it 100%. If you're doing ball joints like this, having it at 100%, 0% works perfectly fine. But if you have one long continuous mesh, then you'll find that that doesn't quite work as well. Let's go into select clear transforms, clear all, and we can get back to what we were, uh, covering with the other stuff. But I just wanted to, kind of separate out a little bit because I felt like we were being too repetitive with just making new limbs. So just kind of separate it out. Figure we'll cover the rigging a little bit there. And we'll do more of that in a short bit because we're going to need to. Because we're going to need to also add, facial expression and stuff. And we're going to need to make sure everything, the entire thing is paired. Now, also technically what you can do, and I'm not a big fan of this at all, but another thing you can do is you can select both, and you can go to Object, and then Armature Deform with automatic rates. And if you do that, it's going to automatically apply the vertex groups, or should automatically apply them. And it's not doing that. I think because it probably assigned it to the neck bone. Nope, it didn't do that either. But yeah, that is like another thing you can do technically. If you have all your objects here, like let's say we have our armature here. Well, I guess let's do this. Let's hit A to select everything, and then yeah, you can go to Object, and then let's deselect the armature. Make sure the armature is deselected. It should be. Oh, here. Wait, no, that's cone 001. We don't want the camera selected. I actually don't see the armature here for whatever reason. We're in object mode, right? Where is... Oh, it's... Oh, okay, I see. Relations, we don't want that. We want everything to be parented to the armature, not for everything else. The order of how you select things matters in Blender a lot of the time, and it can get quite annoying to deal with, but it should work now. So you can go to parent with automatic rates or with envelope rates. There's also bone relative, but you want to do automatic rates. And now it should also just like automatically assign everything. So if we were to go to pose mode, grab our head, and now see it's kind of works, but not quite. And this is because automatic rating, some people like doing it as just kind of like a base template, I guess, or an easy way of quickly applying stuff, but I absolutely hate doing the automatic rates, but that is an option. If you wanted to, you can do automatic rates and it'll automatically pair everything. I just don't like doing that, but that is also an option too, is to do that. And there's, like I said, there's a couple different modes for it. I feel like maybe the envelopes is a little bit better. If you go to object parent with envelope rates, and then that might be a little bit nicer to play with, but it's still the same thing. It just doesn't work for me. But if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then now you know how to do it for individual objects and how to do it for one continuous object, and how to make it a little bit smoother looking. Just wanted to cover that, make sure y'all knew that there was different options for it. And there are tons of plugins also that make it so much easier. You have like Rigify, which I don't think I have installed right now. Yeah, I don't think I have Rigify installed, But there is a bunch of plugins you can find for Blender 2 that make the rigging process so much easier to deal with. And again, this is not meant to be a tutorial on how to rig fully, at least. But I did want to, like, let you know there is also plugins out there that are so much easier to use for rigging stuff. Yeah, I don't think I have Rigify here. I have Bone Physics, Gravity Collider, Anim All. I don't see Rigify in my stuff here. This is for Miku Miku Dance. Yeah, I'm not seeing Rigify installed on this one. But there's a bunch of plugins too that make rigging easier, but I want to show, the most basic of basics, like I was saying, for what this tutorial is going to be. Okay, now we have our basics all kind of covered. Let's go ahead and get back to the repetitive part of having to add all of our bones here. You can see here we got 3 different sections to our fingers. We have our hand bone, which is also our wrist bone, and then we have our eyes. We need to do our shoulders. We don't have any like individual toes, at least. You can do individual toes. We're not going to do individual toes. We also have this diamond down here in the bottom, and we'll cover what that diamond does in a little bit as well. I need to hit Control Z a bunch more. So I'm seeing all these parent lines still, and I don't want those parent lines attached to anything. So I have to hit Control Z a bunch more real quick. There we go. Okay. Why are those? Something happened with our bone relationships here. Yeah, these should be connected to... See, these relationship lines are all going down here to the bottom, the root. And they shouldn't be going to the root. They should be going... Oh, no, it is this polypi. Yep, I'm dumb. Okay. Because we don't have these all as like one combined mesh, it's drawing these lines to the root bone. Okay. But normally, you wouldn't have it going to the root bone. It'd be going to whatever bone is paired with that part of the mesh. So... actually, you know what? I don't want to spend too much time on this, so we'll skip the fingers because I think we've shown another rigging process at least. So let's skip the fingers. Let's come over here to our eyes. Okay, so if you remember here at the start, we made our eyes, and we have these eyes here. It's kind of like bug eyes, but we don't want to use the bug eyes. Okay. So we're gonna focus now on how to add some expressions, and then I will just quickly pair everything up afterwards. But let's do this. So say you want you need your mouth to be able to open and close, right? So in order to do that, at least for Micoverse, there's 2 things we're gonna need to do for it. So I'm gonna add a shape key. Now when you add shape keys or blend shapes, however you want to call them, these are basically save states for your model, right? So you can add a key. You need to do 2. You need to have a basis. The basis is your default save state, and then your keys here are like the additional save states. So if we select key 1, we put it to 100%, and then we can, for example, scale in our model, right? So now if we... Oh, that's not gonna work. So you have to do an edit mode. Duh. Oh, and I just realized we didn't finalize our eyes here real quick. Before we do that, make sure this is applied. It's important that you apply your modifiers before adding shape keys, otherwise things will get screwed up. But you have your bases, and your bases is your default state, and then you have key 1 here. And if we were to put key 1 to a value of 100%, and then we go here, and we scale our model down, right? Just a little bit. Now, if you have that slider, it goes between those two states. It goes between your default state and your new state, state 1, or key 1, however you want to call it. So, what we can do is we can use that to kind of make, you know, air mouth open, mouth closed, and so forth. So, we'll make one here, and we're actually going to invert them. So, we're going to make this one here, and it's going to be, we're going to change this one and kind of flip them back on each other. Here to lurk while doing taxes and health insurance. Oh, that's not fun stuff at all. Oof. I know the pain of doing that stuff. So what we're gonna do is select these 3, and you can actually select all these, and you just hit S and then Z, and you know, bring them close. They don't have to be like 100%, but you can see here too, we now have a little bit of an overhanging lip, so maybe you don't want to do that. So what you can do is just hit these, and remember what I was saying earlier, if you hit G twice, then you can kind of like move up and down on certain axes. So we're going to do that. What we're going to do is put ourselves into 2D view by clicking on this little gizmo up here at the top. Hit G once and then Z. Bring ourselves down. With all of these selected, bring ourselves down. And then same thing up here. Just hit G and then Z, bring ourselves up. Now that gives us this little lip here. We don't really want that, so let's get rid of that. Let's turn on proportional editing. Probably the easiest way to fix this here. So one thing that really helps a lot when it comes to moving like blend shapes and stuff around is this thing called proportional editing. And basically proportional editing, it'll move stuff relative to the vertex you have selected. Now you might need to adjust the actual where it's the size of it, I would say. I'm trying to remember the best way to actually do that, because by default it's going to be a pretty big radius, and I don't remember actually where you change that radius at. So give me a second just to kind of refresh my memory as to where the radius for proportional editing is at. It's somewhere. I just don't remember exactly where that setting was. Under proportional editing manual. I'm just gonna pull up my Blender manual real quick, and I'm trying to remember. Is it really just oh, it's page up and page down. Okay. Yeah, so proportional editing. Okay, so, see, that's not working. That is not working at all. Edit mode, proportional editing. Yeah, that's what I did, but then you can increase or decrease it by using your mouse wheel. Mouse wheel don't do that though. Um, yeah, the mouse wheel don't affect that. I don't know what the Blender manual's talking about. Alt O, Shift O. That's gonna be connected only, but that's still doing the whole thing. Alright, well, I'll just do it by hand. I wanted to show how to use the proportional editing tool, and I just don't remember at all um, what button it was to do this, because Blender manual says you can just increase or decrease it with your mouse wheel, or page up, page down, but that clearly is not working for me, and I had reset it at some point, and I don't know what I did that like reset it, and now it's like way too big of an influence circle. So I wish I knew how to fix that. Projected from view. Yeah, because it's not making it any smaller or bigger. Alright, we'll turn proportional editing off, and I'll figure that out later. But essentially, though, not like the end of the world, you know. But yeah, so what we can do is we need to close these up. So let's go ahead and close these up, and let's bring these down. And it doesn't have to be like 100% perfect, right? To be fair, I don't think we even like had it to where stuff was like lined up anyways when we did the cutting tool. So that is also kind of like an issue too, but that's entirely my fault for that. But here we go. We can you know, snap these together. It's probably as best as we're gonna get. Okay, so we're gonna have these all snapped together. So let's go back to object mode, and now we have here, you know, we have mouth closed, we have mouth open. I also just realized that it is moving the whole mesh entirely, and that's probably because I was trying to do proportional editing, but it's whatever. So but we want this to not be, we want the mouth closed to be the default state, right? So since we want mouth closed to be default state, and we want mouth open to be the slider, all you need to do is click this little arrow here. It says move shape key. You can click that, and it's going to move key 1 up to the top. Now you want to rename the old one that said basis. You want to rename that to jaw open, lowercase j, uppercase O, and then rename the new one to basis. Okay, so that's going to be our jaw open now. Oh, make sure that's at 100, and then, okay, why is it not relative to jaw open? Yeah, it should be relative to basis. There we go. Okay, so now jaw open opens our mouth, and we can also, you know, do the same thing to basically open and close our eyes. So you just now add a shape key 2 and shape key 3. Actually, we'll just do shape key 2. So basically the same thing. You want to go into edit mode, select the outer vertices here. I'm going to select one, and we'll bring it all the way down to where it should be, as close as it can get to, you know, being closed there. and just gonna have to, kind of do the same thing for all of it. um, there's ways to make it look prettier, and we're just not going to bother with that right now. And it's not gonna look the best. Again, we could have done a much better job on this topology here. This is actually one of the issues, specifically when you do a Boolean. They tend to need a lot of cleanup, because you'll end up with a lot of like poor vertices here. So you can see here, there's actually a lot of like vertices that are kind of really close together, right? Like these two here are too close together, and we don't want that. So what we can actually do to fix that is hit A to select the entire mesh, and then you want to go to vertex, and you want to go to merge. So it should be vertex, and then connect vertex pairs. I usually just hit M on my keyboard. Oh, here it is. Merge by distance, and then you can alter the distance there, and that'll help to clean up some of that. Might not always work, but I feel like it does a good job most of the time to kind of help clean up stuff. Yeah, and actually what we could do is move some of these closer to each other. So I was gonna move a lot of these vertexes closer to one another, so it might look a little crappy, but it's fine. So if you move some of these problem vertexes closer to each other, for example like this one up here, I'm just gonna grab these and like I said, just move them a little bit there. And yeah, I mean that could have been a little bit better, but this is just a rough tutorial on Blender, and I didn't really fully plan everything out, so I'll show you what that merge button does. So now we like merge those ones together. Let's also grab these ones here, and so now one's fine. Yeah, that one should be fine. But if you now merge them all together by distance, I'll say down here at the bottom, 10 vertices removed, and that, like I said, it helps to clean up stuff. So that way now, when we go to add our shape key here, which is for some reason opening and closing. Oh, that's why. This needs to go back up top, and then this needs to be set to basis, jaw open, and then just make sure oh, did we do that backwards? We did that backwards, didn't we? I'm going to delete all these shape keys real quick. We're gonna start over from scratch on this part, okay? So let's go all the way back. Alright, so we have here, we have our basis. Now we can add our jaw open. But before we do that, click on our basis here real quick, and we need to clean up the eye socket. So you can see here our eye socket, it's really just not that good right there. So I'm gonna hit G on these. I'm gonna move them as close as I can to where it looks a little bit better. Like right here, for example, that was kind of like a stray vertices. We got another stray one right here. Just want to kind of move these so that way they aren't as badly placed like that. So you just move them to where they kind of overlap, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side as well. But let's move that one down there. So same thing on this side. We need to clean up these stray vertices here real quick. So just real quick job of doing that. Bring that up there. Where's the other strays? We got some more strays down here. Bring them down. That one up there. This one up here. Okay. And there's another stray vertice right here. Kind of a bad spot for it. We can kind of see it. Alright, so now just hit A and then M. By distance, it's going to move 22 vertices. There we go. And now we can properly shape our shape keys and not have too much of an issue. So let's create our jaw open. And then we want to do blank. Try and remember for Micoverse, because Micoverse is going to be using ARKit, you have to use the ARKit names, and I just don't remember all the ARKit names off the top of my head. So we'll get around to that. But we have here now, let's do our jaw open. So with our jaw open selected, go to 100%. You can also hit this little button here. It's the shape key edit mode. Go into our edit mode. And now we can grab this and move it up. Oh, actually, I think we might have screwed up there real quick. Before we do that merge. This before or after the merge? Okay, it's before the merge. Make sure we don't have this problem going on. We just don't want these to be, like too close to each other, I guess. Okay, now we can do the merge. 19 vertices removed. Yay, that's what we want, is we don't want them all like stuck to each other. Alright, so our mouth is closed now, as it should be. Let's get to this again. So we're going to do jaw open. So we're going to enable it, set the value to 100, hit this little button here. It says shape key edit mode. It just kind of helps sometimes because you can trial and error how it's going to look in edit mode. And now we can move this along its axes here. Okay, so now we have our mouth opening and closing. And just for time's sake and simplicity, we're going to stop with the expression there. I want to show how to do the eyes too, but I'm trying not to stream too long still, just because I have not streamed in a very long time, so I'm not really used to doing these super long streams again. But that's basically how you add your shape keys, or your expressions can be these shape keys. So real quick, what I want to do is there's one more thing we need to do, or a couple more things we need to do before we can get this into Micoverse. But I'm going to real quickly kind of speed through the process that we went earlier to kind of pair everything together. So we have our armature here, and we can actually see our whole list of bones up here in the corner. I'm going to add an extra window just so I can see only the bones. So an easy way to add an extra tab in Blender is if you come over here to the corner, you'll see your cursor change to a crosshair. And what you do is just click right there and then drag it out. And you can drag out a whole extra window here. And then you can set this to be any other thing you need. So we're going to set this to be the outliner. So that's only our outline here. Okay. And then we can expand everything. You can actually just, I believe, just expand the whole hierarchy. Let's see here. Exact match, case sensitive, all view layers. Try to remember what the hotkey was to expand it. But we can expand it so we can see what all our bones are. So I'm just going to real quickly go through everything here. And then we have lower leg, upper leg, lower leg, and then we have foot, L, toes. We did do toes. Yes, we did do toes. So that way I know, okay, what do I need to name stuff real quickly. So this was going to be named chest. Okay, so this one we're going to add a vertex group and it's going to be named chest. Okay, so that one's going to be named chest, and make sure that we assign it a value of 100% for a rate. Hit chest, and then we can go on to the next one. So like this one's named neck, right? So we're gonna name this one neck. And again, make sure that the case matches. The case has to match 100%. And I apologize for coughing. It's just my voice is getting a little bit dry. But again, make sure, because these are all individual meshes, that we give them a weight value of 100% when assigning them. Otherwise, it'll end up like this arm. We're kind of like halfway deformed, right? This one's already set. That one's set. We have our head here. Add a group. Label it head. And then, select the whole thing. And then just assign it to the head. And then down here, this one is spine. Oh, fuck, that's right. We also need to cover spring bones. That's something else we need to cover too. I think I'll probably do a whole separate thing, maybe a dedicated video to spring bones. I'll show the spring bones with my other avatar that I made that looks a lot better. Yeah. So this one's gonna be spine. But I want you guys to see, the fruits of the labor so far. This one is hips, so we're gonna name this one hips. Because we also have to attach this to the VRM format itself, because right now none of this is attached to the VRM format. So that's another thing too, because we are using VRM format for this, we do have to make sure stuff is properly assigned for VRM, and I'll cover how that works here in a moment as well. But just for the sake of, like I said, saving time, I was going to very quickly assign these groups here. And then assign. And make sure that I am assigning all these. Edit mode, assign. And then this one down here is foot L. Yeah, it's just foot.L. See, and this is where in a proper video, I'd just be doing like a time lapse. But I just haven't had the time to make proper videos right now. So we don't get a fancy time lapse for this part, unfortunately. Is it toe or toes? It's toes, not toe. Okay. Toes.L. And then this one, this side is R, so it's gonna be toes.R. And again, this is because the name has to be exact, right? The name has to match exactly with that bone. If the name doesn't match exactly with the bone, it's not going to pair it to the bone, and then you won't have your movement that you want. So that's why it's important that your vertex groups have names and not just be like group or whatever. Um, yeah, this is what upper, no, this is lower leg, underscore lower leg, that R. And all I'm doing is I'm just hitting tab to go into edit mode, and then I am selecting everything by hitting A, and then just hitting the assign button to assign it all. So that should be our full body, like kind of assigned now. Now what we can do is select everything except for the head. We want to select everything except for the head, right? And we're going to select it all. Hit Control J, so that's one single object. Now that's one single object. You can see here has all these groups that we just made, and it's all in one collection here because it's now one single object. Our head is separate, however. We're going to leave the head separate because the reason why we want to leave the head separate is because we have blend shapes or shape keys added to the head. This is mostly an issue when it comes to the VRM model format that we'll be using. But with the VRM model format, every time you have a shaped key, it basically duplicates the model entirely. And so you end up with inflated file size. And because your file size is like super inflated, it just ends up making it way too big of a file sometimes. So you can separate the head from the rest of the body, and that will cut down on the file size massively. So we're gonna leave the head separate from the rest of the body here, but this is our body, and just make sure our body is paired properly to our armature, and again make sure our head is also paired properly to the armature. There we go. So now we have a model here, but it's not going to display in Micoverse unless we add materials. So let's cover materials real quick, and then I will show you guys the other model that I made to cover the spring bones. And maybe we'll do a whole separate, more planned out, more proper tutorial later on. I really need to get back in the habit of planning things out ahead of time, because I just haven't been planning things out ahead of time. I did not plan on starting to stream again, and here I am streaming again. But I missed it. I missed streaming a lot, so that's why I'm back. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create, click on our head, and we're gonna create two materials here. So I'm gonna click this plus button. I'm gonna click new. It's gonna create two materials. Okay, and let's go ahead and close this thing out. And the reason why we're doing two materials is because I wanted to show how to like separate stuff out. So what we're gonna do is go into our edit mode, and we're gonna hit A. We're gonna hit assign on material 1. Okay, now we're gonna click on here. It says face, and it's like a little square icon. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this inner portion here and assign it to material 2. Okay, and then same thing right here. We're gonna select all of these inner vertices or inner faces, and we're gonna assign those to material 2, and we'll explain why here in a moment. But let's go ahead and just select everything here on the inside. Same on this side. Just holding down shift and clicking to select those entire faces as a group rather than one at a time. And we're going to hit assign on material 2, and now we can exit edit mode. So what's going to happen here, let's go into our material preview view. You have a rendered view and you have a material preview view. Because we're using VRM, we have to use what's called MToon. If you're not using VRM, you can just use this principled BSDF shader, which is the default shader in Blender. Honestly, the principled BSDF shader is probably where most of your stuff is going to be done in Blender. because it is just that good of a shader. There's so much you can do with it. You have subsurface scattering that you can do. You can do metallics. You can do specular highlights if you want things to have little shiny bits. You can do roughness, which is kind of like reflections sorts. You can kind of see there, it's kind of reflecting stuff there in the eyes. It's a very, you can make things, you know, kind of like a disco ball here. The Pencil VSDF shader, honestly, is, like I said, it's where most of your time is going to be spent when it comes to materials in Blender. You even have this thing here, it's emission. What emission does is it emits light. So if I go over here to like rendered view, it'll be lit up even in the dark. And you can change the color of it. You can change the strength of how bright or how dark that light is. All kinds of stuff you can do with it. And then also alpha modes as well. The Principled VSDF shader, honestly, hands down, it's one of the best shaders just to start off with. There is a bunch of other ones that I'm not going to cover right now, but you have anisotropic VSDF. You have like diffuse, emission, glass, glossy, hair. These are all 4 different things that you can do. You have mix shader, which allows you to mix 2 different ones together. We have refraction, tune shading, velvet shading. There is a bunch of different versions of the VSDF shader for different purposes. But for right now, we're going to use what's called Mtune, because we're going to put this into Micoverse real quick. So for Mtune, I'm going to click down here, and for Micoverse, we have to have a we have to have an actual like texture color for it. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to use can color B for this inner material. And you want to make sure it's assigned to both flick color and shade color here on the side. It has to be assigned to both, okay? And then for our outer head body, we can hit enable Mtune material. And then we're just going to use this one here, it's glass. And then assign that to glass again. And that way we can just kind of see, like, know what's going on with stuff. Now everything here, we can just assign to the glass. So we're going to have just one single material for it. So, now we have this model. It's kind of ugly. I know, it's super ugly. But, again, I actually had not fully planned everything, and I need to start planning stuff better. But we're going to export this. And I'm going to go over here to my VRM from scratch folder and just label it VRM from scratch and hit export. Oh shit, I just realized we didn't actually, oh wait, everything is assigned already, isn't it? Yeah, it should all be assigned. Hooray for using the create VRM button, because it automatically assigns all these bones. If you do not use the button to create the VRM model up here, you will have to manually assign each and every single bone. It can be quite annoying to do when you have to assign all the bones one at a time for VRM. But it's already assigned for us because we use that create VRM button. But real quick, before I switch over to the other model, the one that I made ahead of time, let's go ahead and open Micoverse here. Has Steam pulled up real quick. And let's see here, Micoverse is down here, Micoverse playtest. And let me go ahead and drag that window over. Yeah, I'm going to drag that window over. Give me a second just to log in. Okay, so we have Micoverse. And you can, go to Miko Station. And create offline session here. And we can import our avatar. So, there's a little window here to import your avatar. I'm going to do completely flat for right now. And, first off, let's go here to tutorial, avatars, VRM from scratch. We're gonna select our VRM from scratch model. There we go. So here's our model in Micoverse now. Congrats! We've now put our model into Micoverse. And what I need to also do is turn on the webcam. So, let's see here. We're now able to run around as our model here. And it's because it's all, rigged up, we can see here that it is, playing nicely with our animations. I think I didn't export the head properly. The head probably could have been exported a little bit better. Because it is not having our mouth closed, even though it should have the mouth closed. We'll find out here in a moment once my webcam actually turns on, if it is working or not. But we now have our model here in Unreal Engine, and we can move around, and you can see all the moving parts of it, how it works. Let's go ahead and bring our move speed down to like 25% move speed, and you can see here, our joints are, properly rotating where we want them to rotate. It's kind of interesting seeing our model move in slow motion, but yeah, we now have our model at least moving around and working there. I just realized the webcam actually is not going to load because of something I did with it. Just give me a second to open up a text editor and fix the webcam script. Just so I can check that our face is working. Let's see here, webcam input source 0. Let's try that. Alright, it's gonna load up here real quick. And we'll go to second, just to double check. But yeah, as you can see here, the way our skeleton is moving is exactly how we intended for it to be moving around. You're not going to see that little bend in the arm, at least not with the material that we used, because that material is just not, it's not actually textured. It's just a single solid color, and we don't have any shadows applying to this model right now. Let's see here. Okay, so our head is moving around, but yeah, I think I screwed up on the assignment of jaw open. So it's just having jaw open be defaulted open. And actually, you know what? That's probably my fault. Hold up. I just realized why. So here's a little pro tip when you're exporting. When you're exporting your model, make sure you have your blend shape at 0%. So let's try this again. VRM from scratch, and we'll label this fixed. So let's go back into Unreal real quick, and I'm going to reload the model. So I'm going to go import avatar, and we could actually just do toon shading too with this, so we get some shadows. Hit load. There we go. And now our mouth opens and closes as supposed to. Now I have found with Micoverse, sometimes what I have to do is actually have to go into my avatar settings, and then I have to scale up the face calibration. So we have all these sliders here, and what I often have to do is it's gonna be jaw open is the one that we're looking for, so we need to find jaw open. Should be around here somewhere. Here it is, jaw open, and I have to scale it to like 2, and then bring this down severely. Nope, not that much. And there we go. Now we have our mouth opening and closing. Again, if if we spent more time on it and had our eyes and stuff close to, I'll try to prepare a better, a more prepared version of this tutorial. But now we have our model imported, and as you can see here, our mouth and everything works. And that's really what matters, is that we tested everything, and everything is working. Now an interesting here is you can kind of see inside the mesh right now due to the shading style that we chose, and that's also because the texture is technically a transparent texture. So you can see too, where those bones are interacting with each other this way, because you can see inside the little skirt there. You can see inside of it. You can see where our legs are moving and whatnot. I actually kind of like the head shape we came up with this. It kind of reminds me of like the sack boy in was it Little Big Planet? Little sack boy face that we have going on. But real quick, before we actually call it a day, so that way my voice can rest, let's go back into Blender real quick. Let's save this here, and we'll label this VRM from scratch. I'm gonna hit save blend file, and then I'm gonna open this one here. Now this one, this is more so really what I want to show you guys, but I just felt like I wanted to show a lot more than just making a simple stickman like this. And this honestly did take quite a while to get everything to be 100%, because this one I actually did go through and every single part of the mesh when I first made it, I lined up to the exact coordinates and stuff to make sure it all lined up right. But I want to explain spring bones a bit real quick. So I'm going to come over here, and if we toggle this on, so we have here our skeleton. And what I like to do personally in posing stuff is I actually like to set my skeletons to display as stick rather than octahedral. Octahedral is what you were seeing before, which is this diamond shape. You also have V-bones, which is just boxes. You have envelopes, which are these kind of blobs here, these spheres. And then there is wire, which I don't like at all because it doesn't show you where stuff starts and ends. But I like stick because stick does give you a little dot to show where it starts and ends. Now, these here are spring bones down here. And what a spring bone does is I can't really show you within Blender itself. But we'll go ahead and make new spring bones here. So what a spring bone does, and I'm going to just actually we'll duplicate this part of the mesh, okay? So let's select all of these here, and we're just going to let's delete this tail. Okay, we're going to delete the tail. So I'm going to delete my tail real quick, and we're going to select our skeleton, and we're going to delete the tail here as well. So I'm just going to delete our tail, okay? And so what we need to do, if we want to say we add a tail to the model, then what we can do is go to add single bone. It's going to add a bone way down here. Oh, it's actually adding it in the center, but we're going to move it, and we also have to move the tail of the bone. So let's go ahead and move stuff. So we need to figure out, obviously, where does our bone need to be? And we'll set to like 0.5 there, it's 0 here. And go ahead and just make sure it's all properly like selected. Alright, so roughly our tail is, I don't know, probably going to start from about here. That looks, you know, about where a tail should probably start. And a little like easy trick that you can do with the bones is, first off, let's make sure that this all matches in terms of the X value. So it needs X value to match right there. I said to match. There we go. And then we can bring our Y value out. We don't want the Y value that long. don't make the Y value that long, okay? But let's say you're adding a tail to your model, and you haven't modeled it yet. You can figure out how long you want your tail to be, okay? Select the entire bone, and with the entire bone selected, just go to subdivide, and then you can adjust the number of cuts. So let's say we do 6 cuts. That's going to give us 6 total bones for the tail, okay? So that gives us 6 bones here to work with. Now, what we can do is select the bone, and just select only the tail end of the bone, and then you can rotate it however you need. I don't want to move it, I want to rotate it. I don't want to dissolve it. Instead, to rotate the bone. And you can see here, it's going to kind of like rotate things in a way you don't want to rotate. So you might want to lock a bone, for example. That didn't work. Unlock that then. But we have here, this is our tail. And it's going to be bone 0, 0.1, 2, 3, and so forth. And we go to this one here. So, sorry, my jaw is like being annoying right now, which is also telling me that I probably should take a break here at some point soon. But we have now 7 or so bones for our tail, and we want to make them springy. So to make them springy, well, first let's do this. First, let's actually add a mesh that goes with this, okay? So we're gonna add here, let's add a mesh, and we'll add a cylinder, and let's obviously we don't want our cylinder to be that like gigantic. I can give it 8 points probably for this one. I'm gonna scale it down quite a bit and move it back and then up, and then we want to rotate this be 90 degrees. Okay, and let's scale this down again a little bit more, probably about right here, and try to line up our origin center with the bones. There we go. So just try to line that up, and then you might need to adjust here. Now, actually, our bones here are in the wrong spot for whatever reason on one of these axes here. So let's just make sure that we are correcting that axis. This should be 0, 0, and just make sure that basically all of these are set to 0 for the x-axis there, so that way it's going to be in the proper spot where we want it to be. And that should be 0, and this should be 0. Oh. And actually, let's delete that one there. Okay, so we have here, this is all actually in reverse order, I think, right? This is all in reverse order. Oof. Okay. Let's fix this here real quick. So this one here, make sure we're gonna parent it to the hips, and we don't want it connected. We're gonna make sure it's parented to the hips. And sometimes, depending on how you do it, you might have to kind of redo stuff here real quick. Again, I don't want that to be. I think I screwed up the bone when I did it. So let's try this again. Here's our hips, okay, or our spine. We've got our hips. We're gonna hit E actually, and we're just gonna drag this out by hitting E. And then hit E again, and then we're just gonna drag it out. I don't know, how about yay long. Select this middle bone. We're just gonna delete the middle bone, and that'll connect it to the hips. And we're gonna label it tail. This is tail. And now we can do that subdivide, and it should be in the proper direction now. So we'll just do 4 links, just to make it simpler. And now we can select our mesh here, and just make sure it lines up. Like I was saying, you just want to make sure stuff lines up as best as you can. And then bring this forward to about there. Peepo happy? Yes, yes, Peepo very happy. And then let's rotate our camera. Again, just make sure that we are lining stuff up as properly as we can here. There we go. So now that we did that properly this time, did it the proper way, it's now properly lined up. Select only these sides here, and we're gonna make it go the full distance of that tail. So we can just make sure that we are going the proper length. And then select all. And actually, we don't want to select all. I was going to do the subdivision, but we don't want to do subdivision here. What we actually want to do is a edge loop. So hit Control R, and then you can move this edge loop however it needs to be moved. And do the same thing again. Control R. That one's actually like in the perfect spot already. That one's in the perfect spot again. And then over here it's in the perfect spot where we need to be. Okay. So now we have equal subdivisions to where those tails pieces are going to be. And let's select this first part here. Okay. So we're going to go to our vertex groups, and we're going to create a new vertex group, and this one's just going to be labeled tail, and this one is for our base of our tail. Okay, so it's going to be the base of the tail. Make sure it's all selected. Hit assign. Now we need to select the middle bone here, and you can actually hit Alt-Z so we can select it all properly. This one's going to be tail.001, and then hit assign, and then select all this again, going down, and you're going to label it tail.002, and hit assign, and then so forth. You know, this one should be tail.003. And hit assign, and then lastly it should be tail.004. Tail.004. I'll double check right now, but that should be the proper naming of the bones. But we'll just do a quick double check here real quick in edit mode. So it's a tail. Oh, this is actually 4, 3, 2. I don't know why that's all backwards, but it's backwards for whatever reason. We can just go to pose mode real quick and just double check that stuff is, properly moving the way it's supposed to move. And yes, it is properly moving the way it's supposed to. So that is good there at least. Um, but our vertex groups are backwards. So a really easy fix for that is to just, select our object and just rename these. So this one's going to be, we'll say 4A for right now. And it's going to be 1. And it's going to be come 2. Actually, it should be come 3. And then this will be 2. Supposed to become 3. Here we go. And then this is 4. And then just make sure, again, that we have it parented properly. And that we give it the modifier armature and select our armature. And so now we can go to our pose mode and just double check that stuff is moving. And it looks like our tail is, moving the way it's supposed to. It's gonna look weird because, again, I didn't properly subdivide it at all. But that's fine. It doesn't need to be 100% done properly right now. I just wanted to show what spring bones do and how they work. So if you were to go into Micoverse right now, or any VTubing app, this tail here would be static. It wouldn't be moving the proper way that it's supposed to move, right? It's just going to be completely static for it. And we don't want that. What we want is for it to be able to move around in physics. So let's go ahead actually, and this should probably actually be armature mesh for that. No, that's not gonna work. Yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. But let's go ahead and add some physics here to it real quick. And the way to do that is you have to open up your VRM panel here, and you're gonna scroll down to where it says spring bone. Now there's already one here for tail, but it's all empty. So let's just make everything defaulted values here real quick. Alright, so if we want to add physics to our tail, make sure our tail moves properly, what we can do is you want to add a center bone first. The center bone is going to be the hips. The center bone is optional. It's not necessarily required. If you don't have a center bone, then any movement on your model will cause your tail to move. If you want the tail to only move when the hips move, you have to put the center bone as the hips. So that's what we're doing here, is putting our center bone as the hips. Then you want to select the bone for it, so it's going to be a tail. Now let's say we don't want the tail itself, or this first link, to move. We can just select tail 0.004. And then technically you don't need to add any more stuff to it. That will already tell us here that this whole thing is part of a single chain. So we'll just delete all these extra bones. Now, Micoverse is weird, and you need to do 10 times the regular value here. But we'll just do a value of stiffness 1. We'll do drag force 1. Actually, do drag force 0.5. Gravity, we'll do 0.1. And then we'll do -1 for the gravity direction, which is going to pull those bones downwards towards the ground. And then we need to do a hit radius here. I do 0.01 just because that's just what I find works best for a lot of applications. And then lastly, let's just make sure this is assigned the material here. So I just wanted to kind of show again how the spring bones work before calling it a day. So I want to go ahead and put this in here. I'm going to export this. And here's our little figure that we made earlier. And on the better one, I'm going to load the better one here real quick. I'm going to go to import avatar. Toon shadows is fine. I'm going to import it here. Oh shit, we are we became a light source. I totally forgot that this happened. The reason why this is all glowy is because we had a joke in the Discord the other day about needing a light source that can be moved around the map, and I was like, why not just become the light source? And so I became the light source. Apparently, I am too bright of a light source right now. So, um, but hey, you know, if anyone needs a light while they're building, um, we can definitely become a light source and light the way for everyone who needs light in their building. But that's not what we want. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. I totally forgot that that was a thing. um, that's one of the Mtoon features. Let's go ahead and delete that emission map. And we'll turn our emissions off. And then we'll give ourselves a skin color real quick. And okay, let's try this again. Alright, export, and we'll just have to export this as Archer 2. Let's open this up here real quick, and let's not become a light source this time. Let's just become a regular old skeleton. Okay, so now we're a regular skeleton. You can see here now that our tail is moving. Now it could probably use some extra gravity here because we only gave it like 0.1 or 10% gravity. So it definitely can stand to do more. But that is how you add a tail to it, and you add a little tail physics to it. One of these days, what I've been planning on doing is I want to do a model based on the Wacky Inflatable, what is it? Wacky Wavy Inflatable Man, or whatever the meme was. And this would be like the way to do that, to do the super Wacky Wavy Inflatable Tube Man. Would be with spring bones. So there we go. I'm gonna probably redo this entire tutorial again next week. I'm gonna plan out everything better, because I feel like even though I covered a lot of stuff, I don't think I covered it well enough. So I'm gonna either do it in small parts as a video series, or just try to better plan out the stream. Actually, doing it as small parts as a video series is probably the better way to do it, because I can plan that better, and I can probably do, like, you know, part 1, here's how you drag out your model. Part 2, here's how you add physics and stuff. So maybe we'll do that. I just don't have much time right now because of work. Work has been chaotic. I got something in my eye too. It's gonna show. Do I have my hand tracking on? I don't have my hand tracking on, right? No, I don't have my hand tracking on. Actually, I just realized too, my tracking is like dead for whatever reason. I don't know why my tracking's dead. Has my tracking been dead this whole time? Like, has the tracking just been dead? I think it has been. Okay, well, I didn't realize that I became a PNG tuber for today, but apparently I became a PNG tuber for today. The joys of running multiple PC setups. Alright, well, it's like 12:30, so, I'm gonna call it here for now. I'm gonna revisit this, next week, and hopefully do this whole thing better, but, and I'm gonna get some hydration here in a second too. But I hope that even though oh, thank you for the bits. I appreciate it so much. I hope that even though I didn't cover things as well as I wanted to, that it was informative for stuff. Again, this one I spent a lot more time. Thank you for the follow. I spent a lot more time making this one ahead of time whereas the one that we made today together, oh, that's the wrong one, yarn from scratch, um, didn't quite come out as nicely as I was hoping it did. But I hope that we covered a lot of things, since we did cover, how to move stuff. We covered how to, how to make our blend shapes. I talked a little bit about weight painting and having separate objects parented to bones versus one continuous object parented to multiple bones. And we talked about the materials a little tiny bit, so I hope it was informative, and also I just didn't want to overly bore everyone to death by trying to make every single little bone here, so that does take a long time to do, to make every single tiny bone, and yeah, and then a little bit of the physics there at the end. So yeah, I hope, even though it wasn't as good as I wanted, I hope it was informative at the least. And hopefully next time my tracking is not all screwed up too. I just know, so my lip sync is working, right? The lip sync on my model is working. It's the movement of my model that's not working, and I don't know why. But I'll figure that out another time. All right. I'll be on Discord if you need any help with a model, whether it is, whether it's doing, a VR chat conversion. This is the one that we did last week. For example, this is what we did last week is we converted this VR chat model over to Micoverse, and so if you need any help with your models at all, whether it is doing a conversion from VR chat, or a conversion from Vroid, or doing physics, maybe you already have your model set up but you need help with the physics, please feel free to reach out to me on Discord, and I will always be around to help you with your physics or whatever else that you're trying to do with your model. So if you need any help, please let me know, and I will be there to help. Real quick, just for shits and giggles, let's load up Potat here real quick. And shits and giggles, we're gonna load up Potat here. Super laggy. Oh, it's because this isn't cycles. We don't want cycles. We want Eevee. Wait, hold up. Is this the correct Potat? I mean, it is the correct Potat. That's not the Potat that I wanted to do, but it'll work. Yeah, this will work. It's already all set up as it should be. Real quick before we go, I could have sworn that. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what happened. I'm gonna start a new empty here real quick. I'm gonna go to import VRM, and just for shits and giggles, let's go to where I have the Potat saved. We have Potat .builder, and I don't know why there's a cube here, but we have a cube. Here's our little Potat, okay? We have our hard hat Potat. It's not the same hard hat Potat that was posted in the Discord. This was one I did as a joke. But just for shits and giggles, let's do this real quick. I want to add a cube. So I guess we did need a cube, actually. Let's add a cube. We're going to scale the cube down quite a bit. Put it in front of us. Bring the cube up to the top. And let's probably scale it down just a little bit more this way. And we'll scale it down like so. And let's go ahead and bring this on the y-axis. I don't know, probably about there. And let's make the corners of this be more roundish, I guess. Yeah, let's make these have rounded corners. So there are a couple different ways you can do rounded corners. Easiest way is probably going to be with the bevel modifier. So that's going to give us these nice little rounded corners here. Now with the thing, I like to do 3 segments. If you want to make it game ready, try not to go above 3 segments because then you'll be adding too many vertices. But 3 segments is probably sufficient enough. Let's make this 30 degrees. And let's see here. Well, this should be that's at the angle. And then we can, adjust our shape however we need to. Let's go ahead and set this back to that. Do patch, we can do arc. I want it to be arcs, there we go. I want it to be nice and even. And kind of like that. Basically what we're going to do real quick is we're just going to make a, little lamp here, okay? A little headlamp for our Potat real quick. So let's, I don't know, bring this down just a little bit. And then we'll bring it inwards. Okay. Now I'm going to select our box here and just apply this real quick. Make sure this is applied. Oh. Why are we selecting everything? I don't want to select everything. I just want to select only this. Okay. I'm going to click here on this front face. And we're going to, it's already inset enough, so we can just extrude it inwards. That's a little bit like so. And let's add 2 materials here. So we're going to add 2 materials. Make new lamp underscore body. And then label this one lamp underscore light. There we go. And assign the light to the inner part. And then just select everything else and assign the body. Go ahead and add Mtoon to it, and we're going to I don't know, we'll pick a color. We'll go to Boxo and we'll just pick this body color. It's kind of dark. It'll work. Okay, so we have that there. Now let's pick our inner part and let's give this a Mtoon material as well. And we'll go to lit color. We'll go back to our Boxo here, and we'll do a coin insert for it. Well, no, should the light be yellow? Like, I don't know, what kind of light? I guess white light. Yeah, probably best. Okay, so we'll do a coin insert for it. And then we're going to add that also to the emission, and set our emission to white. And we'll do like 100. And then what we need to do is select our headlamp and select that there, and Control J. Did that pair it right? I don't think that paired it right. Or did it? Yep, it did. Okay, so there we go. Now we've added a headlamp to our Potat here, and I'm just gonna export this here real quick, and we'll go to Ground from Scratch. I'm lazy. Potat underscore lamp, and like I said, just for shits and giggles, before we call it a day, let's go ahead and load up our Potat here real quick, and we'll go to Toon Shading. Oh, you know what? I'm dumb. I forgot to do one thing here. Let's click on our lamp here real quick, and let's just double check something here. I'm gonna go into edit mode, and this is probably part of the head, right? Yeah, it's part of the head. Okay, so let's assign the entire thing to the head. There we go. And it's probably a little bit too bright for our emission. So let's just try value of 10 real quick, I guess. do 10 for now. And you can just double check that that is set to 10. Yep, set to 10. Export VRM, put that lamp 2. Okay. And now this should work properly. Let's go ahead and import our POTAT. Lamp 2. And there we go. Now we have headlamp POTAT. So we can, you know, test that our lamp is working. And yeah, I mean, you know, somewhat works. The only problem with it is you do have to be facing the direction of it for it to work. You do have to be facing the POTAT itself. Otherwise, it doesn't quite go through. I'm sure there's a way we can probably fix that, but so seeing that was incredibly useful. Well, I'm glad that that was like helpful at the least, because yeah, now we have you know, headlamp POTAT. The easiest way, so like easiest way to attach things, right, is let's say instead of, you know, putting that there, the easiest way to attach it is simply add an object. We'll just add an object here, and I don't think I have anything like really cool or anything that has like presets to really show off, but here we go, a simple star. I guess that'll work. So let's scale this down, bring it up. We'll rotate it. Actually, no, hold up. Screw that. Let's do this. Add object. Diamonds? Oh, this is like legit diamonds. Hold up, I don't want legit diamonds. Well, I was trying to be lazy, but we just don't have the option of being lazy, because, yeah. Okay. Scale this up. So, let's add mesh, add cone, vertices 4. And we can scale this separately or differently. Yeah, let's scale this super far down. Okay, and let's see here. Let me add an extra point to it. So I'm trying to remember like the best way of doing that. I just want to poke it as what's called. So I'm gonna go over here to mesh, and then it should be poke, I think was the term. It might have been under face. Poke faces, there we go. So we have a little diamond here now, and let's give it a material. And let's label this diamond. And then we can go here to Mtoon material. And I wish we had like, you know, proper like colored, just like being able to add colors to it. Unfortunately we can't. But we have a little diamond above our heads now. And let's say we actually want to make this like super shiny. I think I already have a rim color I can apply that'll make it shiny under my other avatar here. So if I go, or is it Fantasy Waifu? I think is where it's underneath. It's gonna be under Fantasy Waifu. Actually, just making a black texture should work. Yeah, try that. Make it a black texture. Okay, and then yeah, so the easiest way to pair something is simply to just join it to another mesh. But let's say we want this to just be floating above our body, but not move with our body, right? So all you would really do is set up your vertex group. In this case, I'm going to label the vertex group root, just ROOT. Um, and then go to relations, and then parent, and then armature. And then add the modifier armature and select that. And then that's going to make it so that way the diamond just floats above our head and it's not going to move with us. Like I said, the other way of doing it is just simply selecting like our helmet, selecting the diamond, and then hit Control J and make sure that the vertex group is set to head. But by doing it as root, we can do this here. We can export POTAT lamp 3, for example, and now we've basically created a POTAT sim for those who played Sims. POTAT lamp 3, and we have a nice little shiny gem above our head, and as you can tell here, it stays in place. The root bone I found is kind of weird in Micoverse. A lot of things actually move the root bone when they shouldn't be moving it. But let's say we don't want it to be, say we don't want that to be moving around the way it's moving around. Easiest fix for that is to select our whole thing here and just drag this weight down, this weight slider from 1 to 0, hit assign again, and then we have to export this as POTAT lamp 4 because Micoverse keeps the model in memory, so you can't just like refresh the model. It's really annoying, and I've complained about it. But now, if we were to try importing this again, and nope, it still is moving that diamond, even though I told it not to move the diamond to have no weight to it. But yeah, basically, there we go. We have created a sim POTAT. So attaching stuff is easier than making like a whole model from scratch, I would say. It's a lot easier just to take stuff that's already made and attach it than it is to model stuff entirely from scratch. Not that it's hard, it's just time consuming more than anything. We can also try doing this, like this diamond, and see if just not making it part of the armature, like it's or a child of the armature, but it's not actually like rigged to anything. Try that. Okay, so let's go ahead and load our avatar up one more time, and lamp 5. And yeah, still doing it. It's just a weird Micoverse thing where the root animation, the root of it ends up like sticking, and it's kind of annoying. But I figured it out because of that other avatar that I spent like forever on. That one, the armature one. If I pull this one back up, and I load this one. Alright, no, we gotta make sure we're loading the correct one. That's not a lamp. Because I found out that if I like come here and I do, for example, if I do thriller, so you see this diamond here in the bottom, this diamond right there, right? And that diamond is the root position of the model. So it's not supposed to move. That diamond is supposed to stay still. But I've found that a lot of the animations in Micoverse will move that diamond. And so it gets kind of annoying because when that diamond moves, it means your entire position has moved. So it's a little annoying at time. Like there you go, you can see right there that diamond just moved. And that is really annoying to me because I don't want my position in the world to move. Like I feel like if I were to change animations, um, changing animations should put me back to where that diamond was. So we'll let our model get away from the diamond again real quick. We'll let him get away from the diamond. They'll probably move away from it here in a moment. Um, so as you can see here, we're starting to move away from the diamond. And normally, if we were to hit clear animation, it should move you back to the diamond. Micoverse does the opposite. It moves the diamond to you instead. It's a little bit of an annoying thing. It might just be a Unreal Engine quirk. I don't know. But I find it kind of annoying that the root position moves when normally you don't want that root position moving. But yeah, I almost went on an extra hour. Great. Alright, but let's go ahead and we'll call it there for today for now. I'm gonna try to get some water so that way my voice can rest up a little bit. But like I said, if you're on the Discord and you need help with anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm down to help redo your physics or convert models for you or attach things if you need the help. So please feel free to reach out to me if you need help with your model and getting it into Micoverse or adding stuff to it. But I'm going to call it there for now, and I will be on Discord, so please have a wonderful day. Let me make sure I remember how to, or make sure I remember to turn off the stream on the streaming computer, because I did that the other day where I forgot to change the stream, and that was not really fun. So, alright, I'm going to call it there. Thank you everyone who followed and who subbed and stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to plan stuff out better for next time. But I will see you all later. Have a wonderful day.